Hey, what's going on everybody? It's 4x24 here. Today I'm going to be going through another lighting tutorial and we're going to be talking about all of the on-vehicle lights with the exception of the light bar and the side runners. So your dashboard and visor lights, your mirror lights, your grille lights, and everything on the outside of the vehicle, um, as far as including your rear windshield lights, your plate lights, stuff like that. We're going to be talking about those kind of lights. So we're going to stick with the Crown Vic again, and what we're going to do very first thing, obviously, we're gonna clear my setup here, and I like making Christmas trees, so we're gonna do everything we can to put every single light on this vehicle. And I'm gonna show you what it's gonna look like. And because we're gonna stay away from the light bar and the side runners, we'll do next episode. We're going to make this an unmarked vehicle and go from there. So we're going to clear all these lights here. And one of the first things that I like to do is start with the mirror lights, just because very simple. And it's a pretty decent starting point. Now, one of the biggest things that you need to remember and learn while doing these lights is that when you do about 90% of these additional lights, is the global settings. Now, basically, what that is that's what's allowing the lights to flash either all at the same time or separate from each other. So you recall in the light bar stage, and you'll see when we do the side runner stage, you can have all of these individual steps, which will allow lights to flash differently. If you add, for example, let's say if you have a 12 stage lighting, you can have something flash in the first six stages here, and then you can make them blank, and uh, you can make in a second light have the first six blank, and then the second six, 7 through 12 flash, and that will allow something to flash differently other than each other. So now you'll see what I mean. That's the global setting. So we're going to start with the mirror lighting. Now remember, blue always goes on the right, and once again, these one, two, three, they don't mean anything because you can change them all anyway. That's just the color settings that you have. Now, and I'm going to show you what my setup usually looks like, and this is what I'm talking about: this global one and global two, and we'll talk about these slide bars here. These are the speed settings and how fast you want all your lights to flash. Now, a pretty good rule of thumb. You can see this global one and global two. Looking at the front of the vehicle here, a good rule of thumb. Remember, blue's always on the right, red's on the left. Is to if you're reading from right to left, go global one on your left side, global two on your right, and that's going to be your easy way to remember that. So we're going to start with this passenger side mirror, and that's going to be our global two. So it's already selected, and what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I get mine to flash, and this is going to be a 6-step light. So because this is the right side, we're going to start with blue. We're going to skip one because we want it to stutter flash. In the middle, I like to add a little bit of color depth, so we're going to go white, and 5, it's going to be blue. So we're going to update changes. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So you can't really tell because it's flashing so quick, but there's that white in the middle there. All right. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you, we're going to put this on a mirror on, and I'm going to show you what I mean with this global setting. So we're going to do the opposite here, the opposite color. We're going to do the same steps here. This is going to be global one. We're going to put the white in the middle. Now the other thing I want you to keep in mind is that every time you add a new light, with most of these lights that you add, this will revert back to 5. I think it's the side runners that will revert it to 10, and I'll have to double check to see if that actually even makes a difference on if the side runners flash that quick. I don't think the license plate lights revert this back. I don't think that is a global or should have any effect on it, but if you set these up to the speed settings that you like, every time you add a new one, it's going to change it. It's going to revert it back to the default 5. So now we have this light set up. So I'm going to show you what I mean by global 1 and global 2, okay? And once again, this is flashing a little too quickly to understand. So we're going to set this to 10. So it's going to be flashing a little slower than I like to have it. But this is what I mean. So this is on global 1. This is on global 2. So the lights that you put on the vehicle with these different settings allows it to flash separately without adding steps to do so. Now, if I were to add this to global 2 and have it on the same, it means these two are going to flash together. So I hope that's a good representation of what I mean by that, and having lights flash on global 1, global 2. So that should be a good visual representation of that. The other lights, by the way, that do not operate that way are the grill lights, the visor lights, and the dashboard, the rear windshield lights. They do, as well as all the other outer vehicle ones. Uh, with the exception of the grill lights and the plate lights. Um, so we'll go into this, and like I said, I'm going to show you what I like to put on my cars. We're going to set this back to global 1. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to have, we're going to do these front bumper lights. So once again, I'm going to have this on global 1. We're going to add that new step. It's going to be red, mid's going to be white, and mid's red. And you can see these two are going to flash at the same time. Again, you can hardly tell, but these two are going to flash the same. If I were to put this on global 2, this red and blue flash the same, and if I were to put this one over here on global 1, these two crosswise flash the same. So once again, I hope you kind of see visually what these global settings mean. Instead of adding additional steps so that your first 6 waits for the other one and your second 6 in this example would flash, etc. So you don't need to add all these extra steps and add time to your steps. Just by adjusting which global setting you have it on will have it all flashing the same. Now, if you have every single light on the outside flashing as global 1 or 2, they're all going to flash at the same time. If you have half and half, a myriad of a pattern of your lighting setup flashing on global 1 and global 2, they're all going to flash in some separate pattern. So I'm going to show you how I have it set up on global 1 and global 2 and how I mix it around. So I'm going to keep this on global 1. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing over here. This is going to be our global 2 side. Now, I'm not worried about the time settings once again until the last possible second of how I want it to flash when I hit the road. So we're going to update that to blue. And now what we're going to do, just to mix it up and add that depth, I would rather have, instead of having this whole side flash at once and then this whole side flash at once, I like to mix it up. So right now, these two are flashing together, these sides. So we're going to mix it up by throwing this one in here. And not only are we going to put it on global 1, which is the other side, I'm also going to have this flash as red just to add a little bit more color into it, which it already is. We're going to add the white. And then red. So now you see this red light is not only flashing with this side here, but it's flashing in between these two. So you always have some light flashing on each side of the car. And as we go around, you'll see it evens out, and you always have some light flashing on the car. You always have lights flashing at one point or another. There's always lights going on. And you'll see it evens out, and you can do it so that they all are neither light that are next to each other, no light that's next to each other will flash the same. So this is why I like to have the mirror as a good starting point, and the front bumpers kind of correspond with that. And again, you can have it so that these cross, and you have something else. But I always know I can go back to the mirror to say, well, this is the passenger side, the right side, the global 2 side. I also know that blue is always on this side. So for me, the mirror is that starting point, that reference point. So the mirror is global 2 blue. So we're gonna go ahead with this one again in the passenger door, the rear passenger door, and we're gonna alternate again. So this is gonna be global 1. I'm gonna add our white for that depth of color. We're good there. And now what we're going to do is on this side here, this is going to be our global 2 once again, and this is going to be our blue, and white, and blue. Update. And so now you can see there's always some light flashing on the car. And again, I'll change the speed settings. I keep forgetting to do that to show you. but there's always going to be some light flashing, and I like that there's always some difference of color, and with the white, it just adds that extra depth of color. So I'm going to leave the back just to show you how if we go around, it's all going to meet alternating global settings. And then when we get to this rear visor, it's going to take a whole nother depth, and I'm going to show you that. So now where are we? We know this is global 1. We know this is global 1. So now we're going to be global 2 here. We also know those two are red. So this is going to be global 2, and this is going to be blue. We have our update, always update. And we know this is going to be the same. So this is going to be our global 2. And we're going to make it blue. And add that white in the middle. And then going back here again, this is going to be our global 1 because we're alternating in each sequential light here. It's going to be global 1, red. This is the red side. And just really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and show you, before we get to the back, how it's going to look. So you can see these are alternating here so that you always have light and color flashing on this side of the vehicle. It's not just this whole half of the car, then that half of the car. And it's the same thing over here. And you notice they are alternating. And even though right now, just from the front, it looks like one side and one side, with all these other lights that we're going to add on to it, if you were to just look at it head on, and same goes for the rear, after we add everything else, you'll see it's going to alternate and it's all going to mix in. But when you look at the entirety of the vehicle, even in its current state, you see there's always going to be lights flashing on certain parts of the vehicle, and there's always going to be the difference of color versus red and blue, and with the addition of that white. And that white's even going to come into play even more when we do the visor lights, the dashboard lights, the rear windshield, and the plate lights, as well as the grille lights. So remember what I said, we're going to come back to this back here, and we know this is going to be the same as that mirror lights. That's going to be global 1, that's going to be red. So what we're going to do here is this is going to be our global 2, and this is going to be our blue. This is going to be our global 1, and this is going to be red. And now you can see that on the alternating, I forgot to change that global setting, I think. Yep. By alternating these settings and colors, you now have no light that's next to each other that's the same color, nor is it flashing at the same global setting. It's all different. It all alternates, and it all does equally. So you can have every light on here and you will not repeat that pattern. It's just one pattern all the way around. So now, like I said, to take this into another depth with sticking with the global patterns here, we have this on global 1, and this is flashing red. What we're going to do, instead of having the bottom one flash the same, we're going to have the top one and the bottom one on the opposite side flash the same. So there's our global 1. And we're going to make this one global 1. I like using the double. Now, the one thing that you should keep in mind as well when you're doing these rear doubles. So this flasher right here, even though looking at this is your right side. If we were to clear all these other steps here, I want to show you that's the opposite. So When you're adding these rear doubles, it's as if they were facing front-wise, okay? So this is the light that's selected. This is the one that's active, the inside, this facing the center of the car. See? So just keep that in mind really quick. And if you were to do double reds and have them stutter flash the entire time, then that doesn't mean a whole lot. But when you do what I do and you add that difference of color and you're a little bit OCD about, it flashing a certain way and looking a certain way, then this is where it makes a little bit of a difference. So once again, this is going to be the one that looks, if you're looking straight on inside, but the opposite is true. This one that faces outside is the one that's actually inside. So that's helpful to know going in. And now what I would like to do, what I like to do is, especially with the top ones, as they almost conform with the top of the car. Let's say if you were not going to have a light bar, but if you do, it conforms with the light bar, to have this one the same color as this side of the light bar. So that's blue. So we're going to stick with blue right there. And what I'm going to do is the white really quick. I'm going to add our stutter step. And then we're going to alternate. And this is going to flash red, then white, the stutter step, and then back to blue and white. Now on the other side, we're going to have that red flashing twice and the blue once. And this side's going to be it's same thing down here where these lights. So this pattern is going to be the same down here. And what I even like to do is even switch that up. So where the outer portion can be that white flashing twice, whereas up on the top I like to have the actual color of the light bar, for example, flashing on the outer side. So add that stutter step. You can see in there it's alternating that white flashes in those lights as well. And this is flashing top-wise with these two. So to alternate that pattern, and you can see what I mean, just by adding another light, it forces it back to speed 5. So what are we going to do here? We're going to add some red in this one, so it's alternating some colors. And remember, this one's going to be that inside, so we're going to start with the white on the outside. And as you can see, this is already on different settings here. Now we're going to go with the red on the outside and alternate once again. Now, before I update, we'll show you what it looks like. So now these are alternating with each other, but the top one and this bottom one on the bumper are flashing together, and this one is flashing separate. Now, once again, you'll see when we add all of it in that it's going to look much more uniform. So we're going to go with this flasher, this top one, and what we're going to do is we're going to make the red on the outside, on the top, just like the side of the light bar. We'll alternate. And now you have these two flashing opposite each other, but the same as the crosshatch in the windshield. And not only the crosshatch, but the same as it's skipping one right here on the bumper. So then we'll add this to the blue side. And once again, this is where we can alternate a little bit. The blue's on the inside, the white's on the outside. We want to put that on global 1. Now you always have light flashing in different locations, and the color is different. It's alternating itself with it. So you always have some light flashing. You always have some color into it. Now you can have red and blue and swap that out. You can add the whites in there. You can have all blues, all reds, etc., or whatever color you want to have. So I'm going to show you really, really quickly the license plate light. It's very, very simple. One thing that I like to do is just to have a 6-step. Now you can have it alternate and flash back and forth. One thing that I like to do is now once again we're gonna keep in mind you want to make sure that it's gonna face the right way. In this, the license plate light is the one that actually is the correct side when you're looking at it. It's not the front or when you're facing backwards. So again, blue's always on the right. What you're gonna do is we're gonna have this flash blue white, red white, back to blue white. We're gonna update that. And now you have that difference of color in there. All right. And just really quickly, we'll add something to the grill. Most of my cars have 4 instead of 2. So what we're gonna do here is we're going to, once again, this is where it conforms to the right way since you're facing the right side, the correct side of the vehicle, the front. So we're gonna have that blue top-wise matching with the light bar. We're gonna alternate these. We're gonna have our 12 step. And there's a few different ways that I like to have these flash. Some of them have 24 steps where it flashes this side and this side, and then cross and cross. But you know, this is feel free to play around. This is just a basic tutorial, just to kind of understand how the process works, and you can play around with it after this. And this flash is completely, just like the plate lights, flash is completely separate from the global settings. So there's always going to be some flashing and moving around as these have their global setting patterns to it. Now, the dash light, the visor light, like I said, we're going to make this a Christmas tree, and I like to add it all. Now this is where making the pattern, this is where you can't control the OCD about it, because you can have, I like to have these both top and bottom flash separately, and there's no way that you can, uh, this, you, there's no way to have these flash, they're all next to each other here. So one's going to be global 1, one's going to be global 2. So one's going to be flashing with this side, one's going to be flashing with the other side. And if you were to change up the entire thing, that's how you can do it. You do whatever you want to do. So we're going to add our 6 steps here, and we're going to do our blue and red. Alternate those. Update, and that's already going to be on global 2, so I already know I can go onto global 1 on this one. And on this top one, we started with that blue on the left on the bottom. So what we can do, especially because the light bar is going to be the blue on this side, this one's here, blue on this side, we can alternate this one here so that there's that difference of color here. So we can have the red on this side, the blue, and like that. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is I think it's just the way it's set up where you add so many lights, and this includes the light bar, the side runners, and whatever. This is where speed almost makes a little bit of a difference. And just because you can see how uniform it kind of looks. But there are some times where if you have it flashing too quickly or too slow, just like you saw that red kind of steady burn like that, if you have too many, it almost doesn't look too pretty. So just keep that in mind when you're adjusting your speed, adding the light bar and all of that. But just so how we have this vehicle right now, you can see we've now added every light on the exterior and interior of the vehicle, and they're all flashing opposite each other. There's that difference of color. That's how you're going to get these lights set up. That's how the global settings work. That's how the speed settings work. So, I'll show you really quickly. And you can go, like I said, every time you add a light, it's going to change that speed setting, revert it back to 5. So if you change one, if you change this one, it's going to change the entire global setting. And if you're going to, unless you want it a specific way, a certain way, I would change both. So here's what it would look like if you have, and that's what I mean right there, how it's kind of stayed steady burn. Sometimes it works like that. This is your grill lights that aren't going to be on that global setting, but everything else is flashing, except the plate lights again, on that speed setting here. Now, if you were to set this onto 24, one's going to flash a lot faster than the other one. And then the other one's going to flash. It still looks quick, but it's going to take longer to flash. And the other one's going to produce its pattern a lot quicker. So here's what the whole thing looks on speed 4, global settings 4. Now I would like this, especially on an unmarked like this. You have a lot of light flashing, almost all at once, but in the alternating pattern of global 1 and global 2. So you've always got some light. Now the light bar, like again I mentioned, is going to be separate from this. So you'll always have the light bar going. You'll always have some light going. But I like something like this on an unmarked vehicle. Now, if you wanted, like a detective, a simple, almost minimal lighting, but like I said, we have all the lights on this car. Just something a little simpler. You can slow it down a little bit, and that's how that would look. So feel free to play around with it. I hope I explained, I hope I showed you what the global settings look like, what the speed settings look like. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Like I said, next episode we're going to talk the side runners, and we're going to incorporate those into the entire lighting of the vehicle. So like I said, hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Hope you learned something. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. Please let me know if you like any flash patterns. I'm more than happy to send those up. If you have any questions on getting anything situated a certain way, I'd be more than happy to work with you on it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Stick around for the next episode.